G'day guys, what's cracking? It's Ralph Mayhew here, and today we're on North Stradbroke Island and I am on the point of Point Lookout. That's the name of it, Point Lookout, and I'm on the point of Point Lookout, and we're looking out for dolphins and for whales. And whilst the challenge of this shoot was to shoot some flying dolphins, alas, that has not come off. So instead, I am going to introduce you to the soiree of images that came from the Nikon Z9 on my trip here. And there's all sorts, and I'll talk you through some of them, and I'll put some of them up, and I'll give you a bit of a feel. We'll see how the Z9 holds up under pressure with autofocus, with tracking, and just with taking a landscape image. And I think, like me, you'll be suitably impressed.
We jumped into the studio. I'm going to show you now 36 images very quickly of the 1500 I took over the space of a couple of days. This was taken at an ISO of 3600 on a 260mm. I had my 150 to 600 Tamron on. This is at 7.1, which is near its sharpest at 8, f-stop of 8, and the shutter speed was 1600th, which you don't need for a tree. Look at the detail. It's just gorgeous. They're little insects that make that. Then we went down to the rocks. It was during the day, and this is Lyndall, my wife, and again she was a long way away, so I had a 150mm on, ISO of 640, f-stop of 7.1, and a shutter speed still of 1000. And if we zoom in on her, that looks pretty good. There's a tiny bit of noise here, but hardly anything to write home about, and I was pretty happy with this shot, just given we were exercising the camera out. Then this beautiful eagle flew overhead, and as you can see, the light was just kind of catching it around the rim. If we go full screen, you can have a bit of a closer look of this. I really struggled to get the detail of its head. I really wanted that. But as you can see, it's slightly pixelated. This probably comes from a photo. It's already significantly cropped in. Let's have a look. Yeah, but 45 megapixels, you can crop it in. I wasn't really comfortable with the camera at this stage, and the tracking, whilst the tracking is brilliant, and the tracking just easily picked up this bird. As soon as there was a dark mass of blur, it went straight to it and could track it along. But I reckon my shutter speed that's set at 1600, I just should have shot faster because the bird was moving pretty quick. Then 2 kilometers out, these whales were breaching. So this is shot on a 600mm, and I've cropped in, which you can do on the 45. This is just for, I'd never use this photo other than maybe a bit on Instagram, but it's just to see if you could actually do it. The whale was 2Ks out, and that's the kind of that's how close we got. As you can see, that's not too bad. The quality's not great. The sharpness isn't great. It's cropped in massively, but I wanted to push the camera to some of its limits and see what it was able to do. So that was the whale breaching. Now if we move along, look at this little character. He's flying vertically down and dive bombing his food. If we zoom in, that's not too bad. There's a tiny bit of noise there, but the detail's okay. Now again, this was shot on 2500, an ISO of 450 at 600mm at 7.1 f-stop. I probably could have gone to an 8 f-stop, put it up to 800 ISO, and bumped up the shutter speed even more. But here's what I'm really impressed about: the tracking. It just picked up this bird and nailed it as it's doing a dive bomb straight to the floor. Now, something else interesting as we're flicking through these images, each file is quite significantly large, and that means it takes a bit to load. So I press on this, and then it takes a bit to load. It also takes a little bit to process. Now, this is a pelican. There were some people fishing. They had some fish guts that they threw on the side. So these pelicans swooped in and started grabbing this thing. The sun is behind the bird, kind of to the left, and so creating these beautiful, like, you can see the veins in its beak, and again, not quite as sharp as I'd like, but that's user error, I believe, over camera error. So these pelicans were then cruising around, really good because they're big, but then they move fast. And so this is it just taking off, and I've got a series of shots where he's out of the water, and then he's flying away, lifting his wings, spreading it out. And if the photos look different, it's because I've edited some and haven't edited the rest. But it tracked all the way through. It's just like bam, 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 bam. I think I had it on the slower shutter speed, which would have been 10 frames a second, and it picked it up beautifully. So this brings us back to our next image. The detail in some of these feathers. You can see the veins on the feathers. Shadows pick up the noise, as you can see, and so it's always good when you're shooting wildlife to overexpose a little bit, because if you overexpose you'll get less noise, but with overexposing here you'd lose all the detail in the lights, highlights on the feather, so you need to balance these things. The pelican then takes flight, and I really love this shot because you've got just some of the reflection of the bird here, you've got the spray here, it's just in beautiful flight, and you've got fish in its mouth. So if we zoom in, and that's pretty sharp, I'm pretty happy with that. Again, he was moving pretty quick. Then he really takes flight and zooms around the corner, which gives us this shot as he goes into the sun, and then a mate of his swings by. As you can tell, the sun was about to set, which you'll see by this next image. But this is shot at 2000 shutter speed, ISO of 220 on 600mm at f8. If you wanted a sharper image, I reckon I'd either need to upgrade my lens, not shoot on 600, shoot on 500. This is cropped in. Let me just show you fairly significantly. So the bird was a long way away for me to crop in at 600 and still gets close. So if I was closer, it would do a better result, I reckon. Then we go to the Pier Shot. So there was a sunset, and the sunset was just spectacular. This is what's called Amity Cove, or Amity Jetty. There's a jetty where you can see both the sunrise and the sunset, and this is where it's sunsetting, and this crew is just fishing, but created this beautiful silhouette opportunity of this guy with dreads who's fishing with his daughter. It's his daughter there. I just love this shot, just the heat of it. You've got the orange and the blues contrasted, and then you've got this guy's dreads, and if we zoom right in to like 100%, you lose some of the detail because of the white light that's behind it. If I press J, I can see if that's actually white or not. It's not actually white, so that's good. It retains some of those details, and he's with his daughter just there, and if we zoom out of there, we go to the next shot, which is she just moves over a little bit. I just love it. Just feels so Australian. I just love this shot. It's just the colors and the composition, and very nice. And I shot with when I turned the Nikon Z9 on its side. And the interesting thing, when you turn it on its side to shoot, so you can shoot portrait and still have a shutter button that's on the top, but your eyepiece moves, and it takes a bit of getting used to that, because you're used to the eyepiece being top and center. It actually goes to below center on the left hand side. But the sun began to set, and so you can see some of the landscape options of this camera. It's just glorious. There is a little, you see that? I'm not sure if that's on the lens or that's on the sensor. I think it's on the lens. That's easy to clean up, but it also makes sense because I was changing and slipping between lenses. This is shot at 550mm at 1/2000th ISO of 1800. I could have, if I had my tripod with me, set it up and taken the same image with a bit more detail in it and a little less noise, but I didn't take this shot for the sake of putting it in the portfolio. I took it for this shot, the sake of showing you what the camera can do. Then a boat came past, and this is why my high shutter speed was on, because there was a lot of boat life, and I wanted to capture some of the detail of this boat that was rocketing along. And as you can see, it's nearly in focus. I wonder where the focus point actually is, but it's not quite on that boat, which I wish it was. Guys, let me just interject here. I'm running a few online workshops. If you'd like to partner with me in editing some of your images and me showing you how I might edit, this is how you might edit. You might learn some things and I might learn some things, and we might have a great time. There's a workshop happening. All you need to do is go to the link below, and we can organise a time and one-on-one, let's sit down via Zoom, wherever you are in the world, and get cracking on some great editing. So if you'd like to be part of that, link in the description. Then the next day we went out and had some fun with the dolphins. So I didn't get one kind of jumping out of the water, which I hoped I would, but this was really low light. It was in the mornings, first thing in the morning. The sun hadn't really gotten up, and so as you can see, it's an ISO of 20,000. The shutter speed is on 1,000th, because I made the shutter speed as slow as possible to catch the dolphin, but also not crank my ISO up. And you see it's so noisy. I found the Z9 is not good at fast action in low light, but if you know a camera that is, let me know, because most really struggle when it's very low light and you're trying to capture high speed moving objects. Then we've got this shot. This is taken at 180 mils on my Tamron. ISO is 1250. Shutter speed is 1/125th, I think that says, an f-stop of 13. I wanted to catch some of the detail in the rain that was raining right on the horizon, yeah, expose accordingly. And there's that dust spot, which I didn't realize till I came home to process, but again, easy to fix. And if you want to know how to fix it, just you just go to here, and then you go over to here, and I go a bit smaller. You press the square bracket key to go a bit smaller, you click on it, and it just selects another bit of cloud there, and then you go done, and it's all gone. There you go. Easy done. We had another whale breaching. It was playing. This is taken on the 600 mil. Again, it was really low light, so shutter speed of 1800th of a second, and ISO of 3200. My eyes are terrible when it comes to reading this little figure here. Gosh, it's so tiny. So if you go, hang on, you got that wrong, just look at it yourself. Again, this is just to see what it could do. So it picks it up. The tracking picks up the whale, which is exceptional. It's able to shoot from a mile off, and if I was just closer, like I was doing a whale tour or whatever, that would just look absolutely epic, because you pick up all the detail, but you don't pick up really any of the detail. But it's just an interesting shot and a good tourist snap, really. Then we had the sun rose a little bit more, and we had it just cutting through these clouds, and I love this image, just love it. What I've found too is if I go lens correction, and you go remove chromatic aberration, which can sometimes happen, in this case on the horizons where dark meets light, you get this funny pink thing. But we also want to enable profile corrections. I go Nikon, and it goes, that wasn't shot on a Nikon, it was shot on a Tamron. So if I go Tamron, and what it will do is unwarp the image to give you a straighter horizon and less warp. The warp happens through the lens, and so the software counteracts that warp afterwards. So then we went for a bit of a walk on the cliff tops, and there was this water spray, and I got tons and tons of these images. And so I just show you this. This was taken on an ISO 360 at 320, f-stop at 8, because I was using the lens mainly around the f-stop of 8, because that's where it's sharpest for the Tamron 150 to 600, and an f-stop of 1600, which allows you to get you some of the detail of these water droplets. Now I was focused on the rock that is just here. You can see a dark part of it there, but that's actually okay, because an f-stop of 8, I'm easily going to get this. And I could bring up some of the blues here. The light was shining through, actually it was shining down, so down on that scene, and again, I just love that water splash. And then there was these beautiful turquoise colors that I just wanted to grab. I just love the swirl of the waves, and of course I shot that on a different position. You can actually rotate that, and it looks much more realistic. But I just like it. It's just a bit arty and a bit fun. All these images have been first round editing. I do a kind of a first round where I'm kind of happy with it, and then if I ever want to do more with the images, I then go back and really get stuck into it. If you've been enjoying this so far, or you're enjoying these videos on the Z9, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That would be helpful and an encouragement to do more, because I've had a few people go, come on, just get stuck into the Z9, and here I am getting stuck into the Z9. I'm trying not to bore you and fly through. That's my little boy, as he was sitting on a rock just contemplating the world. It looks pixelated just because it's loading here, so it's doing its setting thing here, and it'll come good now. The details on this shot were 1/1600th. I might have put it on shutter priority, actually. I was using this, and auto ISO, I imagine, at 280. Now, I wouldn't usually shoot this shot with the lens that I had on, but I had the lens on and he was there, and it just looked nice. And actually, if I was going to crop it, I'd crop in just a little bit, so we were kind of free of that tree just there. But I like the context that he's sitting in. He's kind of contemplating the world, so we put him dead center, just like that. I reckon that's how I'd crop it if you're interested. And I might actually go, oh, I want a bit of framing around the bottom of that, so I might move it down like so. And when you're cropping, what you can do is go to the crop function, then press O, and it gives you a range of different so there you go. It's it fits a bunch of these different options. So you just press O, and it shows you that's the golden triangle. So something like that would fit the golden triangle. And again, it works. So plenty of opportunities there. And go just Command Z and it takes you back to where it was. Then there was, as we went on this cliff top walk, there were these incredible colours. I love the blues, the bluey aqua here, there's the green and the yellow and the water rushing through. This is pretty quick. This is all handheld, and so that's 1600th of a second, ISO 360. There was then an Osprey that was just chilling out on this weather station. This is at 1250 of a second, and the ISO is 400 at 600, and he's pretty quick. We'll have a look at how sharp this fella is. Like, if I'd have upped my ISO, and if I could have got closer, would have got some of the more of the detail. But here's what I'm impressed about: he was a long way away, like a long way away, and I was just stoked that it would come out so well. And I can actually crop that down if I so choose, and I can straighten up. You can straighten up by pressing that angle button, and you can just draw a straight line, and it makes any line just straight. And I get done, and that's kind of interesting. It's not a keeper, but it's just interesting. Then the waves were just coming in and smashing in this beautiful arc pattern. Look at this, just this. And so again, like, you know, we were talking about before, if I go there, and then I love that it's able to catch the detail of this water at so far away. I was at least 300, 400 meters away from this, and yet it's able, even in the fringes, it captures the water and the drama of this action. I'm handheld, and what I would do if I wanted a much sharper shot, and because I'm walking along and with the family, there's a lot going on, I would have actually got a tripod, stationed it in, put it on rapid fire with a separate handheld trigger to really smash that out. And the light wasn't perfect, but I do love this, and I love it creates some shadow here as the waves burst forth. There, came back to the car. There's a kookaburra sitting on the power line, so I snagged him. Again, the light was sort of fading, so it wasn't really bright. That's a shutter speed of 1600. I could have probably slowed that down to 1000 for this bird, but 600 mil. I'm pointing it up. It's a heavy unit, especially with the Z9 and the 600 on it, and ISO 111. Yeah, could have probably done a bit better there, but that's okay. And you can see some of the textures on its feathers. It's funny, as I show you these, I'm like, oh man, I need to get better using this camera. It's beautiful, a rainbow on the morning of the next morning. If you really want a good photo of a rainbow, you need a polarizer filter, but I can't get one for the size of lens that I've got. Or maybe you can. It costs $1,500 for the one-off time, and you have to shoot a rainbow. Nearly at the end of the show that we've blazed through. So with this one, I chucked on a 24-70, and that shot at 24. I can just cropped it into, I think it's 16:9 crop, and I just love just the way it all looks. Let me just go reset on this so you can see what it looked like before. So that's shot in RAW. RAW is very flat, and the reason you shoot in RAW is because it gives you power to manipulate the shadows and the highlights. As you can see, this is really highly exposed. There's a lot of highlights here and not a lot of shadows, and so if I then apply my edit to it, you really see the rainbow pop just here, but also just this shelf of cloud, which I love, shells of cloud. And here's something interesting. So again, I then turn my camera on my daughter as it's quite warm, and if I go back to here and go reset this image, this was just shot in camera. Look at the ISO. That's as high as the ISO goes, 25,600. So top ISO range in dark settings at 1600th of a second at f8, and this goes down to f6, I think. Well, actually at this it would go down to f4.5. That's pretty good. If I go auto here, which allows the Lightroom algorithm to determine what it thinks is best, watch what happens. It gets super blown out and terrible. Just lose all the quality. It's pushing the photo too far. And so what I would do in this circumstance is I would bring the exposure back to where it's reasonable, and then I'd probably just decrease the shadows a little bit. I'd increase the whites a little bit. I would take down the contrast a little bit and just gradually massage it. But this was taken because it was just funny watching her concentrate on her camera, which is just sitting over here, and what she was doing. anyway, you don't care about that. Then when we walked back, the sun hadn't really come up, but there was this kangaroo that was standing in front of an Aboriginal site where they were protesting about a whale station being put in, a whale viewing observation deck, and good on them. It was really good to see them stand up for their land and really want to claim back that which had been taken away. And so there's this cool Aussie Shot. That's the Aboriginal flag just there, and then kangaroo. And it was just fun. I saw the kangaroo, I picked up the camera, I just shot it off, and here's what happened. It was on a shutter speed that was quite low and an ISO that was very, very high. So it was nearly dark. This must have been the next morning when we came back. So it was nearly dark when I shot this shot. And you can tell, because you go, that's okay, nice for Instagram. But you zoom in and it's just, you couldn't do much with that. You could put it through a noise cancelling program, but the noise cancelling program would make it a bit mushy too. So you'd lose some of the sharpness that you might hope to get. But anyway, good for Instagram and good to send to the folks and go, hey, look at this. This captures something really, really Aussie. And then I think I took 5 shots of a pano and stuck them all together on this image. So this must be like 1 million megapixels. I don't know how big it is. It's just huge. But it retains a lot of detail. And so we go in and it does its thing. So this would be one of those pieces that would just look stunning on a wall or as a backdrop. And I could, as I said before, I could just edit a bit more to draw some of the color out of here and do something different there. Here's how it's cropped in case you're interested. No, that's it. That's the full pano of them all stuck together, but they've merged together pretty well, and they've merged together in Lightroom. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think there might be a slight bulge just there. We can test how straight this is by putting a line there and drawing the line across there. It's actually pretty good. It's pretty stable. Oh, good job. Lovely. I took a few of them, but I won't bore you with them today. This is one was on a 20mm, shot at 1/100th of a second at 320, and the sky was just lit. There wasn't quite enough interest happening just down here for the waves to warrant like a woohoo. So it was okay, it was good, but there just wasn't enough there. I would have liked just a dolphin jump in there or something insane would be amazing. A what? A dolphin jumping? Oh, come on. So they didn't jump for me. They just swam past me. Not jumping for you. But this shows you what sort of detail you can draw out. This is the stats on this photo is 460mm, 900 ISO at 12/50th of a second. That's pretty good, right? That's those specks of the water. It's just splashing that water as they catch in the light. And there's that beautiful dolphin. So look, you can crop in that much and it's fine. I actually want to change that crop so it looks like that because of this beautiful band of blue water I love there. Yeah, I could edit it some more and draw out the color here. If you really want to draw ocean colors out while we're at it, just go to HSL and then you can choose luminance and you click this button and you select the color and you draw that up, and then you go to saturation and do the same, you draw that color up. It just brings out more of the blue so you can see what that looks like. And there you go, chug-a-lug-lug, I'm done. I hope that hasn't bored you and it's been interesting. Obviously, there's a ton of other expressions I could have shot with the Z9, but I just took it out and about and I shot it like I'd shoot when I'm walking around with my family, because a lot of it was just walking around with my family. And let's get back to the point. So how was that? Was it fun? Did you get lots out of it? If you've got any questions about the Z9 or any questions about those images, please put them in the comments below. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. It would really help me out. And you can give this a like, just punch that thumbs up and we'll be in business. Okay, catch you guys soon. Bye.